Check 1 2 1 2. Hope I am being heard well. Let me double check this. I think we are live. Okay. All right. All right. All right, let's do this. Today's going to be a very special lunchtime with SloMo. Going to be somewhat special because it is not me doing this solo like I normally am. I'm going to be doing this with the good friend, developer, agent Deli, aka Die. Die will be here in a moment. He said he has some things to finish up before he could jump on. So I'm just going to keep an eye out on Discord so I could kind of bring him in when he is able to get here. What's up, Def Lloyd? How's it going, bro? But the majority of the focus of this lunchtime with SloMo is going to be about the huge, probably the biggest announcement, the biggest reveal from the Video Game Awards last Thursday. And if you were on DPS with us, with me, Gaming Forte, Eric Jackson, Ramon Terrell, aka Trevor Birdsong, we were doing the reaction live, and absolutely, I think probably the biggest shocker, the biggest surprise of the entire show was absolutely the reveal that Arcane Leon under Bethesda, here he is, under Xbox is going to be developed, and you know, this is something that people have been saying for a minute, something that people have been asking for the Xbox leadership to do. We need a superhero game. You got exclusive superhero games on Nintendo platforms, on PlayStation platforms. Where is the exclusive superhero game for Xbox? And you know, I saw some pushback from people. Some people thinking like, we don't need a superhero game. And coincidentally, I see none of those people saying that, having that same kind of thought process after seeing the reveal. People always say things that they will claim they don't need or don't want simply because they don't have the expectation that they'll ever get it. So they kind of resort to a defense mechanism. Oh, well, I don't need that. I'm good. What's up, True Bleed? How's it going, man? Die, can you hear me? Die, because you're still muted. Oh, yes, here we go.
Hey, I just wanted to give you time to talk. I didn't know when the best time to like cut in is.
Oh yeah, no, you're good, man. I'm just kind of, you know, ramping up to our discussion, but you know, I'm just kind of getting into the mode of what we're talking about. And for anyone who apparently has been under a rock, or maybe they were in a coma for the past week or something, they just didn't know that, hey, at the Video Game Awards, there's a Blade game coming. You know, that was announced at the Video Game Awards, and Arcane Leon is going to be doing it. So we're going to get into it. I got a couple of things, a couple of bullet points I wanted to kind of like discuss with you. You know, because you and I had some interesting discussions in regard to where we would like to see the game go, or where we would like to see like the finished product when it launches. Like, what kind of game are we actually playing? And I think a lot of that is something that is insightful for people who clearly weren't in our conversation, and just like in the whole thought process of like, what kind of game could this eventually end up being? So you ready to do this, man?
Yeah, I'm down. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Shout out to John the Don in the house. What's up, John? How's it going, man? So the first thing I want to say, I guess, kind of dispels some of this first thing is to kind of dispel kind of like some misinformation that's out there, because there are people who are saying like that they didn't like the tone of or the mood of the trailer, which I'm not telling people that they can't have an opinion about a particular tone or mood. That's you. You can like whatever you like. Everyone has their preferences. That's not a problem. My issue is when people say, "Oh, that's not Blade," and it's like, I mean, like, what do you mean that's not Blade? That he said in his only like actual words in this trailer that he said, oh, he made a quip, I don't bite, but he's a hybrid vampire, so it's kind of like haha, tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. But like, if your only exposure to Blade are the movies, even in the movies, he's not the Master Chief, you know what I'm saying? Like he doesn't just like, all I'm about is my business. I say no jokes. I cry, ain't nothing funny. I cry, like that's not the actual character. The characterization or the depiction of Blade through Wesley Snipes. I mean, he's not cracking jokes all the time, but he has his one-liners. He has his quips and comments that you can find humorous. And if you look at the actual character from the comic, which frankly has been through very different iterations and changes, if I believe me, correct me if I'm wrong, the original iteration of Blade in the comic didn't even have all these powers. He was just immune to being turned into a vampire, immune to the bites, and that's it. Like, they actually kind of revamped him to actually give him more power, later on. So it's interesting to see how some people have resorted to, I would say, kind of fanboyish commentary about certain things that they really don't know anything about. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think in mass media, you have this character that a lot of people are like used to having a specific view of, and that's okay to have like a surface level view, right? Like, because I'm not going to tell somebody like you have to do X and Y to become a fan, right? So technically the only thing that you need to be a fan of Blade is to be a fan of it. You don't have to consume content. You can just loosely say like, I like Blade, I think he's cool.
Right.
You don't have to wear his t-shirts, you don't have to buy stickers for your car, you don't have to read all the comics, you don't have to do that, right? And I think that's a lot of what a lot of people just don't really quite understand, because it really comes down to this tribalism. Like they like it, they're like, I'm a fan of Blade, therefore I want to protect Blade from like non-fans. But it's like, traditionally comic books and stuff like this kind of media has always been like very inclusive. So it's like, hey, I would love Mo, I would love for you to check out Blade. Like, how many people have you met, like genuine nerds and geeks, right? Actual geeks. Not nerds. I don't really like the term nerd. I think it's pretty surface level, but genuine geeks. Every single time you talk to them about their favorite media or stuff that they like, all they want to do is share the stuff that they like. They're like, oh, you should check this out. Like you with Mass Effect. Yo, you guys gotta play Mass Effect. You guys gotta play Dragon Age. You know what I mean? And that's not because you want Dragon Age to continue or whatever. It's because you just genuinely love the IP and the products, right?
Right.
And that's how it should be with Blade. And I think that the problem with Blade in media is that because he's only had a few outings out in the media. I think he's got 3 Wesley Snipe movies, and I think he has an animated movie or 2.
He also has a TV show where Sticky Fingers. That was actually a really good TV show too, man. Sticky Fingers did his job. Like I mean, it was a bit different, but it was good. Like I need to go rewatch that. I actually rewatched all 3 of the Blade movies this past weekend. Which, for those who are not aware, if you have Hulu, like, you don't even have to rent it. You can just they're available on Hulu to watch. I watched all 3. And I don't know how you feel about it, Di, but I would say Blade 1 is still the best. Well, actually, me personally,
Blade 2 is really good. Trinity
Blade
is
2,
pretty crappy.
Trinity's awful. Like, it's
like the worst.
It's like Trinity is like one of those movies where it forces a studio to go, all right, we just gonna have to put this on the shelf for a while. Because it's so bad that people probably aren't gonna want to see another movie after this, right? Trinity is terrible because the tone was bad. Even like the music is different. Like the tone of the kind of music that's in it is different. And look, I love Ryan Reynolds, but they let Ryan Reynolds be Ryan Reynolds way too much in that movie.
They let him run free, man.
It's just like, yo, Ryan, shut up sometimes. Like, no one wants, like, and your jokes don't land, bro. Like, stop it. And it was pretty annoying. But Blade 2 is my favorite. But I understand why people say Blade 1 is their favorite, because Blade 1's it's just so cool. But I like Blade 2 more. I thought the fight, the actual action, the fight scenes were better in Blade 2.
Yes.
But that's just me personally. But I think what I'm trying to get down to is that I feel like there are people that are trying to pigeonhole what Arcane Leon can do with Blade. And it's all about their own personal perception of what the character Blade should be depicted as. And I think I can understand that for if this is a character to say like Batman, Bruce Wayne. The character is so old and it's been written by so many people who have followed the same format. And if you have a Bruce Wayne Batman that is talking and acting completely out of character, people going to be like, yeah, man, like that ain't Bruce Wayne. What are y'all doing? But that's not Blade. Like, even though the character was created in the 70s, like he didn't really get his own book until the 90s. And even then, I would kind of say that 90s book was kind of cheesy. Like I think the what people think of as Blade is what they get from the movies with Wesley Snipes. And if Arcane Leon definitely taps into that, I would love that. Like that, because that's when I think about Blade, I think about Wesley Snipes. But if they want to go a different direction, I think people shouldn't immediately poo-poo that and actually give them the opportunity to do their depiction of the character without having other people just writing it off without even giving it a chance. What do you think about that?
And that's my problem with Blade is that, like, because you know, there've been only so many outings for Blade. A lot of people surface level, a lot of people out themselves, right? A lot of people just are like, oh man, Blade this and that, and it's like, it's very clear. Again, I'm not gonna gatekeep who can be a fan and shouldn't be a fan of Blade, but it's very clear who has an idea of Blade strictly through one or two pieces of media. And I think that's my biggest problem. And it comes down, and that kind of spills over and dispels into like their criticisms for Arcane. And I'm sure we'll get into that as well too. But it really kind of irks me because it's not like, because every other character or many other characters in media have the ability to grow and be better or do things differently. But unfortunately, when it comes to Blade, and again, much like you were saying, I feel like they're pigeonholing Arcane into this kind of like it's this, you know, fake discourse, fake rage. It really comes down to like, people are like, oh well, Blade needs to be like this and needs to be like that. Honestly, Blade can just be a silent protagonist the entire game, and would that also put him in a different light? Like, would that fit? Would that work? Like, would that still be Blade? And it's like, yes, that still would be Blade, you know? Or do you want him to be cracking jokes 24/7? It's like, yes, that would still technically be Blade as well too. Obviously, it's going to be faithful to certain things, and that's a lot of what I'm open-minded to. I think that's the right way to put it. I'm open-minded to the idea of like what Blade could be, right? Like, he's in Paris. There's a huge cultural melting pot in Paris. There's very key things to Paris that work for Blade, that could, you know, that work for Blade just in general. And I'm sure that we'll be able to talk about that in depth down the road.
Yeah, and he's an international kind of character. Like, is that like, you know, Spider-Man is based in New York, Superman in Metropolis.
Very local. Yeah, a lot of
he's a local dude.
very local. you know.
Right. And Blade he could literally be anywhere. I read a comic a while ago where he's like in what is considered like vampire. I think it's called Blade Vampire Nation, and he is a detective inside of a vampire community led by Dracula. And this is like in Russia somewhere, like in Western Russia. And like, so it's like he's literally a character that's all over the place. Even in the movies, at the end of the first movie, he's in Moscow. I think at the beginning of the second movie, he's somewhere else in Europe. I can't remember exactly where, but he's not a character that's just like, oh, you think of Blade and you think of a specific city or a specific fictional city kind of thing. So yeah, and I think that freedom of he could be anywhere. He could really kind of do anything. You can kind of put him in a different occupation, so to speak, than he's done before, and it will really fit and work. It's something that may work in Arcane Leon's favor, especially considering, and we can kind of like transition to this part, that some people I think are a little wary of Arcane Leon doing this kind of game because, and I guess we can talk about the difference. Well, not the difference, but combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arcane Leon is known for immersive sims, and
Yes.
when people think about Blade, I'm thinking about what kind of like the action of the movies. I'm thinking about how he has been depicted in comic book, and I'm like, I'm not thinking immersive sim. I'm thinking like aggressive, high up tempo action, you know. So I think that would be a great, like, I guess this debate, or not even really debate, discussion on where Arcane Leon may take it, and then also the kind of thought process that they can't break out of the mode that they are currently in, because we see so many developers actually make something different than what they are known for, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think we gotta kind of give them the opportunity to show us they can do it, right? So what are your thoughts on where you think the combat should go, and whether Arcane Leon should make it less immersive sim, or should it be like a hybrid of both? What are your thoughts on it?
They can continue to make the combat how they have made their combat in the past. I think that it's important to understand that, what's it called? It's important to understand that Blade could be a multitude of things, right? Just like you were saying, he could be anywhere. He's not a very local superhero, right? So here in Paris, you know, like if it's modern day Paris, there's the Eiffel Tower, there's lots of lights, there's a lot of cultural melting pot things going on, and I think that the immersion sim situation that Arcane has like put themselves in as kind of like for their own reputation, I think it would definitely help here, especially understanding that their impressionism art style goes hand in hand with, I mean, just even the core tenets of impressionism go hand in hand in what Blade is and Blade isn't, right? And if anybody doesn't understand that, or is not aware, impressionism, like the actual art style, is when it was created in France, developed in France in the 19th century. It was basically created out of the nature of rebelling against like a classical subject matter like portraits, and to embrace modernity, it desired to create works that reflected the world in which that they lived, the people lived, the painters lived, and really the huge focus was to show how light could define a moment in time, and not just strictly coming out of something like black and white lines. So a lot of the attempts of impressionism in the past is that it is accurately and objectively recording reality in terms of light and color. And I think that that's it being the main idea behind that, I think that Arcane is the ideal choice to create a Blade game, which Blade is very much a character that uses the effects of light and dark and color, in his environments. I just think that when it comes down to it, Arcane is going to do it justice, just strictly from how their games look. And I know a lot of people saying like, "Oh man, I want the photorealism look," and yes, but also no, right? Like photorealism can backfire very, very quickly. I mean, look at Call of Duty every year. If you look at Call of Duty 4 years ago, it hasn't aged well. If you look at Call of Duty 10 years ago, it hasn't aged well. If you look at Fortnite 10 years ago, it's aged very, very well.
Yeah.
So it comes down to this idea of like, much like comics, right? Like seeing an art style is like they should make it stylized. They should make it a very certain way, but that doesn't detract from actual realism. And I think that a lot of people just don't or refuse to understand that. It's like the basic concept of like, photorealism is not the only thing out there present. And that goes with combat as well. Like you can have combat like Sifu, which would work in Blade's favor, right? You have martial arts, you have weapons.
That's actually a very good example there, because of how the art style is depicted, and no one complained really about the art style. It kind of worked for what the kind of game was, and if anything, someone could probably say they were concerned about a particular art style, but then with third person perspective and combat that looks good with that art style. But I think Sifu's a very great example of how that can be done and it still look great while it's being done at the same time. Although I would hope for, considering the resources behind Arcane Leon compared to SloClap, who did Sifu, I would expect to see more detail with like character models and environments. Like you see like the teaser trailer that's I got like running on repeat right now on the screen. Like whenever I see teaser trailers, I always kind of think, you better be able to deliver on a level of quality that you see in that trailer when the game comes out. Because if not, then it's almost like false advertising when it comes to, like, for example, and I hate to kind of get in on their sister studio, but Arcane Austin with Deathloop. Not Deathloop. Redfall. Redfall had this like 5-minute, very high quality CG trailer. But it had the same art style as the actual game, but what the actual game depicted and what the trailer had were like light years apart. In addition to Redfall not having any cutscenes in it whatsoever. And that really, I think, detracted from what people felt about Redfall, period. And even now, we're seeing people question whether Redfall was even a AAA game or not. It was definitely AAA game, considering that's about budget.
Considering the pricing, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, how much they had to spend on that. Yeah, it's a AAA game. Sorry, even though it may not feel like one, it is a AAA game. And so I kind of hope that, like, I'm fine with this art style, because like it's a little different because it's a movie. But you look at like Spider-Man Into and Across the Spider-Verse, those two movies, very, very different art style direction and approach they went to their animation, but because it was done so well, literally nobody complained, because it was just like, well, look, it looks awesome and the animation is great, so what is there to complain about? It's done well. And I kind of feel like if they delivered on this throughout this kind of art style throughout the entire game, but it's a high level of quality, a high level of detail, I don't think that there are going to be very many people that are going to be complaining about that. Sure, you may have some people who's like, well, I prefer photorealism. But you're saying you prefer photorealism from a comic book character.
But like for what?
Yeah.
For
yes.
what? And that's the question that we have to ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for what? Like what does photorealism serve for Blade? Genuinely. Because there's no purpose other than the fact that you want a high fidelity looking Blade game.
Yeah.
Like, yes, of course.
But it can still be a high fidelity game without having it be in photorealistic. In my opinion, yeah.
Like Spider-Man looks good. Like Spider-Man 2 looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And their people don't look like real people.
Yeah.
Like, they don't. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man 2, like Yuri Lowenthal Spider-Man is a very, very beautiful looking game. There's no issues with the game. It's just that, like, when you look at the characters of their 3D rendered models, it's like you can't genuinely believe that they are real characters, unlike a character from like the Order 1886 or from something like Red Dead Redemption 2, right? And that just comes down to, again, art style, art direction. And that's just a deliberate choice that they made for the Spider-Man games. And it's not like Insomniac hasn't been able, or PlayStation Studios doesn't have the technology to create realistic looking human beings. I mean, Last of Us 2, Infamous Second Son, like, it's in the umbrella to be able to have the technology to create that. I mean, look at Death Stranding as well too, right? But just for some reason, Spider-Man 2 just didn't serve the gameplay, the narrative, whatever it may be, the ultimate end goal in order to make the characters look hyper realistic. And that's okay. The game runs great. The game's narratives are good. The game's combat systems are great. There's nothing wrong with it. But you don't see people complaining about that.
Yeah.
You see people complaining about this because to be honest with you, the art style for this teaser trailer looks fantastic. The characters look realistic. Like, if you put this on a painting or in a wall, or just took a screenshot and showed it to somebody, nobody would be miffed at what, like, the characters look like. Nobody would be like, oh, this looks fake. Like, oh, this doesn't look realistic. Oh, this doesn't look like it doesn't inflect like realism. You know, it does. I just don't see the criticism behind the art style for Arcane.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are comparing it to. I think a lot of people are comparing it to other superhero games that have come out, as far as, and it is different than, but it's also kind of similar to the art direction that you've seen from Arcane Leon in the past as well. And because it's different, I think that's literally the basis behind the entire criticism. It's a different art style than what you got from Spider-Man, than you got from Guardians of the Galaxy, the Avengers. Even though I think that the way this looks, if the game turned out to look the way this teaser trailer looks, I would prefer this way more than, say, the way the Avengers looked.
Right, I would prefer it 100% more than having the plastic look. You know what I mean? It wouldn't serve the game well, and it would detract from it in a few years. Yeah.
Now, something else to think about when it comes to Arcane Leon, right, is that all their games have been first-person perspective games, and this game is going to be Dinga, the lead director, and he is the studio head of Arcane as a whole now, right? So he stated to Jeff Keighley during the Video Game Awards, this is going to be a single-player game, third-person perspective, and action event. It's going to be action adventure-ish, right? So I see Blade X in the chat said, I need gore. And I even though the Blade movies kind of replaced a lot, I mean, you got blood, but it wasn't like I'm leaking blood because I just got stabbed.
You know, it
wasn't, right. It was blood because I got like Blade fell into a pool of blood and came out and then whooped everyone's ass like immediately afterwards, kind of blood, right? So it's just I understand that, but then at the same time, he's a character that uses a sword, like all kinds of small knives and you know, like I'm gonna say mono wire because I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk, but like a wire to cut through people, and everything is made out of silver, so that it definitely affects the vampires more than any other regular weapon would, in addition to guns that have silver bullets and whatnot. And so all that said, I think they have, maybe this is just my opinion, they have no choice but to go the gore route, really, like to in order to really, it's going to be yeah, so mature rated.
It's gonna be mature rated, so there shouldn't be much to leave on the table when it comes to the actual rating, right? So like M rating should be, let me look this up. M rating for the ESRB, titles in this category contain intense violence, blood, gore, sexual content, and or strong language.
There you go. Yeah, I mean that. There you go. So look, so for anyone who thinks that this is going to be a jokey comedy show and it's going to be like old school Mortal Kombat sweat instead of blood, or just all the vampires just immediately turning to dust with not a drip of blood anywhere, then like your feelings are going to be a bit unfounded, because it seems like that's not the direction that they're going. So that's good. That's good.
It should instill confidence in the player base.
Yeah.
Or just the audience in general.
Something I wanted to, like, because you and I had back and forth about this.
Yes.
And it's the whole Paris as a character thought process. So I know this is your theory, right? And yes. I kind of look at it like we were going back and forth, because I was saying that like what they had to do is something that you ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So I think Josh Whedon introduced this for.
Oh, back when he was good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Back when he was good.
Back when he was good. The superhero that needs a supporting cast in order to be successful. And I think that format that he created with the Buffy show, it has been duplicated, and you see it in every CW TV show. We see it in any kind of other TV show. It's never the hero by themselves. Even if it's a solo hero, they always have a supporting cast that actually helps them accomplish their goals. And without that supporting cast, even though they're the main person that gets it done, without the supporting cast, they would fail. And even in the Blade movies, he had Whistler. He in the first movie, he had that hot black chick helping him. And
who could forget?
Right. In the second movie, he's got, I forgot what they called them, the Blood Pack or something, like the team of vampires that had been trained to hunt him. He always had help, and then of course in Trinity he had like the worst cast ever. But there's always there's always the team that's there, and I feel like they have to kind of do that. I think what will really make this game really take off and really be a hit is not simply their depiction of who Blade is, but their depiction of who that cast is, and that like they can really just go anywhere with that. They can create their own characters to really help them out. Maybe actually introduce Whistler as well too if they want, but just they can really go spread their creative wings on that aspect of things. And I think creating great side stories and side missions and quest lines with those side characters in Blade could really kind of take the game to a next level, where it's not just it's just a superhero game, but it becomes something that like where it will have a story that people can definitely resonate with a long period of time. That is my thought of what, but you had a different idea of like Paris as a character. So explain for everyone how you kind of feel like they can take the city Paris and kind of make it a character within the game itself.
I think that, to me, the game's direction should pivot to something like Paris as a character. Because not only is it a lively environment, but from the teaser trailer, like, you see a lot of, you get this feel that Paris is genuinely lived in, right? Like, it's not just a set piece environment, like it's not just a setting, like it's much more than that. And I think that that's really, they should really emphasize that, because you should have this what's it called? You should have Paris as this kind of like not only this backdrop, but you should have it as a living, breathing world, right? You have this obviously you have this vampire infestation here. Like obviously Blade is here for that specific reason. You should be able to emphasize that and say like, oh, Paris is more than just somewhere that Blade just is kind of stopping by. Like Blade should have a hideout here, sidekicks, but like Paris in itself should be a living, breathing world that reflects like Blade's impact, Blade's like standing, Blade's just I mean hell, just like his visit here, his his pit stop into Paris should have an effect on like for the environment. As you can see here, like you have the Islamic text on the top of the teaser trailer, which is like a portion of the Quran. So it's like obviously there are people who live here that read the Quran or like are faithful enough to even like graffiti it onto the wall. There's like shops, like obviously there's this guy who's like this Christian barbershop guy. Like you should be able to have like these different influences, these different melting pots, like this different cultural standings in the area, and you should have Blade impact that. And what better than to have actual Paris be its own character with the way it
Okay.
operates, with the way how it views Blade, with the way how it interacts with Blade, with the way it kind of morphs and shapes to Blade itself, like just in general. Rather
So
than
are you
yeah.
thinking an open world game instead of a more linear narrative experience? You thinking like where the player can kind of just go across Paris, accomplishing, you got your missions, your main missions that you need to accomplish, but there's also side quests that you can get into, but it's really up to the player and how they choose to do that. And as they're going about their day, NPCs may react to Blade in different ways depending on the actions of the player, or is it like where are you going with it?
I'm thinking more of like I think more probably better as a hub world.
Okay.
Just because like again, not strictly speaking of like Leon versus like Arcane Austin, but currently right now like you have two iterations. You have like open level map, and then you have like hand tailored linear worlds, like linear sections with Deathloop. So just comparing and contrasting both those two iterations, right? Not saying that one is possible, one is not impossible, but in the past, the track record for open world giant levels for Arcane, just as a whole, Arcane has detracted from the actual talent and ability of Arcane's like work and as a studio to push through. So I would prefer it to be a hub world, just so that you can have those distinct handcrafted tailored experience and sections. And
like Deathloop, like Deathloop, because
Deathloop,
Deathloop had hub worlds where you would kind of like, I think there was like a tunnel system where you kind of get to the next hub, you can go back and forth. So you think that would be
out. It would to me it would be preferred solely for the fact that you would be able to have like boroughs in France or in Paris and I know that's probably not how that works, but whatever, who cares, it's a video game. You would have like boroughs that you could specifically hang out in Paris that reflect certain cultures, right? So like you have like an area that's like predominantly Muslim, or you have an area that's predominantly capitalistic and high society. You have an area that's low income. You have an area that's more like a commodity center. And you have like these kind of areas and hubs that would be best to have the hub world to emphasize the fact that they're hand created and tailored by people. So nothing like procedurally generated, nothing like too vast, you know what I mean? Because as much as I loved Redfall, which I didn't love that much, but as much as I enjoyed Redfall, as many hours as I put into the game, I put a lot of hours into the game. The world is just largely empty and devoid of character, of fun, of enjoyment in that first section. In the second map, it's much better, and the talent bled through a lot more. But by that point, and the majority of what's it called? The majority of the marketing material and the reviews don't really do it justice, because I didn't know that there was a second map. A lot of people didn't even make it that far to understand that there was a second map. But by the
I
time you
know
got
I
to the second
didn't.
map, right? But by the time you got to the second
Yeah.
map, you have different environments, you have entire different style of play. Like it becomes more of like a horror game, and
Mm.
you didn't get that in the first section of the map. The first section of the map was mostly like run and gun, mostly like fetch quests and like interrogation quests and like intel collection. And you like the second portion of Redfall is entirely a different game than the first portion of Redfall. And that's why I say, like, reputation wise, like historically looking back on like Arcane as a whole, creating like larger maps, wide linear maps, it hasn't really been the best for that studio, just in general, right? Just the studio
Mm.
name. It hasn't been, Arcane hasn't really excelled in that. But if you look at a game like Dishonored to Dishonored 2 to even Deathloop, those smaller, I mean, they're still large worlds, don't get me wrong. Those smaller hubs are infinitely more detailed, infinitely more crammed with things to do, infinitely more traversal friendly, infinitely more immersive. And they're just plain better. They play better, they look better, they feel better. And for hub worlds, it's more optimized. Like, you know, you only have to create X and Y. You don't have to worry about somebody standing on a mountain looking across the world and be like, oh, well, now I got to consider how to balance that, right? It's like,
Yeah.
you know, every single vantage point in the map, you know, every single vertical area, you know, every single underground area. Like, you can hand tailored, handcrafted. The experience will be infinitely better for me, anyways, and just in general.
Yeah, I thought I thought that came to my mind from something that you just said, but I'm gonna get to the super chat real quick. Shout out to Homie One Kenobi with a $5 super chat. Says, just showing my appreciation for the streams. Hope y'all have a good day. Kenobi, I hope you have a good day, sir. Hope you have a good day.
Have a great day.
Great. Have a great day. Have a great day. Have an excellent day.
Stellar. Immaculate. Phenomenal.
You know what movie this gets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie. That part of that movie is like, it's so good.
Oh my God.
So when you talked about traversal, something that really came to my mind. So like, you remember in the Blade movies, like he's had mostly like two modes of transportation: a motorcycle or like his muscle car. And now I've been to Paris before, not bragging or anything,
but that's cool that you have.
I've been to Paris. Okay, now something that the note of Paris is that it's a very old city. And the reason why I say it's a very old city is because the vehicles that you see in Paris are like, the streets are very narrow because they aren't designed. The streets weren't designed in a time period where there were cars. So a lot of the vehicles that you see there are not the kind of huge American muscle vehicles that Blade typically drives, but like them little, I forgot what they call them, Renaults or whatever. Like they little small. Yeah, look, I'm 6'4". I see a car like that, I might want to put it in my pocket, you know, give it to my kids when I get home or something. You know? You're right. Like, it's not you can't have Blade driving and something like that. So I'm thinking traversal, they're going to have to go a motorcycle. Like, it's got to be
motorcycle, grappling hook, fly wire. Like, yes,
100%. Yeah. They because I'm fairly certain you got Arcane Lyon. For those who don't know, Lyon is in France. So they're doing this game in Paris. They're probably going to want to make sure that, regardless of time period, that Paris looks as accurate as possible to what actual Paris looks like. If that is the case, they're going to have these narrow streets, and you can't drive your American muscle car down these narrow streets. It's impossible. So yeah, it's going to have to be a motorcycle of some, like, or, you know, using grappling hooks and whatnot. And the gear that he's got to have, like, he's got to have diverse methods of dispatching vampires, his enemies, and I think in this way, this could definitely be something they could kind of tap into what Rocksteady has done with the Arkham franchise, because Batman, of course, has a ton of gadgets. This is something that they could kind of like they could lean into a little bit. But since I'm kind of already on that tone, I wanted to kind of bring up something that I thought that when you were talking about if you were making the game, like how you would do the combat, and I was like, yeah, that I can't get it out of my mind now. It absolutely has to be that way. So I want you to explain to everyone like the idea that you have about like different stances and having using different stances. It kind of reminds me of Knights of the Old Republic 2, by the way, where
Yes.
you would use a particular stance for a particular kind of enemy. So if you and they're gonna have to have a vast enemy diversity in this game, but like let's say if you have an enemy that is more resistant to a particular stance, you need to switch it up in order to make sure that you're actually getting through combat pretty well. But I'm talking too much. Explain your idea, Di.
So my idea kind of comes from like previous games, like in the kind of genre, right? Like this action, what's it called? This character action genre, or more this like Arkham style genre, where you have like different enemies, and like these enemies are resistant to certain things. Like you see it in Spider-Man, you see it in Arkham all the time. Like enemies who have a shield, enemies who are long range, snipers or whatever it may be. But why not take it further, right? Because like Blade isn't necessarily like a gadget heavy user. Obviously, I can be wrong about that, depending on the iteration. But like stereotypically, right? Like Blade is not necessarily like a gadget heavy user. So majority of his gadgets are marksmanship related, or what's it called? Like sword related, I guess. Like he has his double-edged sword, and then I think after he lost his arm, he has like this broomstick and duct tape that he makes like his arm into, which is, to be fair, pretty raw. But yeah, like you have these two stances. So I figured like just to keep with the faithfulness of the character, to have kind of two stances where you would have one with guns and one with blades, right? So guns would be like traversal heavy, so you would have something like air combat, anti-airs for specific enemies, like let's say there's flying enemies, right? Or enemies like fucking helicopters or some shit like that. I don't know. There could be a lot. Along with like grapple heavy mix-ups for like a melee substitute. So like if you're in gun stance, like obviously it's going to take too long to like swap to your sword, so you would go for like, obviously air combat, air juggles, and then if like enemies get too close to you, you're able to substitute that by using like grab heavy maneuvers to kind of like create distance, right? Which is like specific for just like what's it called? Specific for like gun combat, because obviously you want the most distance you can to be effective with guns. It's not like John Wick where you closer you get, blah blah blah, this and that. None of that silly stuff. And then you have the other stance, which is a sword stance for your traditional Arkham or God of War styled combat arenas. That it's a specific fighting stance that utilizes combos, dodges, parries, potentially a meter building mechanic. And things like this kind of put the game into a character action genre. Games like Devil May Cry, Vanguard, games like Bayonetta, pretty much the Platinum Games suite of video games. That genre that was created by Platinum Games, where a lot of it is just juggling skills back and forth. And I think that that's important for Blade as well too, because you're fighting vampires, right? Like you're not fighting human beings, so you don't have that mechanical disconnect like you would if you like turn the game into like a more RPG heavy, or have RPG mechanics, or just have like health bars on enemies, because that's a portion of game design that is tough to nail, right? Because like let's say the Division has this like realistic look to it, photorealism. It's got some plastic characters, but it's got this like realism edge to it. Enemies have health bars, and you pull out a gun, and realistically, you know what a gun does, you know how it functions, all the ballistics and trajectories and stuff like that, and then you shoot somebody, and they don't die, and you shoot them and reload, and then you shoot them and you reload, and you shoot them, you reload, and they don't die.
And I'm just going to interject real quick as a division head. That's typically a sign of someone's trash build. But continue. Right. Yeah.
But it's like it creates this disconnect, even in early hours, right? Like, because I played the original Division when it came out. Even in the early hours, it's like that was one of the biggest things that one of my friends said. He was like, I'm just having a really hard time. Like, it doesn't affect me, but I'm having a hard time, like, kind of really resonating with the idea, like, these guns are actually getting upgrades because I shoot somebody and they don't die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I get
the whole thought of there's a guy with a hoodie and I hit him with a headshot and he doesn't die immediately kind of thought. Yeah. And
you have that disconnect because you're going for that realism, right? But with Blade and vampires, I don't know about you, but I've never encountered a vampire. So I don't know how many bullets it would take, So you could get away with that kind of style of like DMC character action genre, like Nier, strictly because of vampires, and it wouldn't be as large of a disconnect. So those are largely the two reasons I would have between having two mechanics or two stances, specifically one with blades, and close range combat CQC CQB, and then one with ranged traversal, air combat, anti-air, and grapple with the guns. Just because you have, again, part of Blade's biggest things are his martial arts prowess and his marksmanship. So you would be able to excel in both and be able to keep the character faithful in that regard. And then you also be able to generate a game that has depth to it, and not necessarily just a game where you come in like the original Arkham game where you can get away with just like pressing triangle and countering attack like an entire mob of people, which they've remedied like down the road in the later iterations. But the first one, you could do it. It is what it is. You can do it. And arguably you could do it in Arkham City as well too. And that's the kind of like, because those games have had those pitfalls in history, you can look back and study them and say like, oh, I won't do that, right? Like you could give Blade a counterattack mechanic, like a get out of jail free card, but then it would result in gameplay like that.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if it would be important to kind of let's say on the theme of different stances and different styles depending on the enemy that you're facing. In the movies, we see that dynamic with the vampires and their familiars. They're humans that do their bidding during the day, and also will pick up a weapon or whatever and try to fight Blade or whoever for their vampire, who their master or whoever. I wonder if, like, say during the day. And I don't know if you're doing hub worlds like this, if you really introduce a day-night cycle.
Definitely
okay. So all right. So like during the day, of course you're not going to be fighting vampires, but you're fighting their familiars and using silver instead of your typical bullet may not be as effective on a familiar who's a human being as it is on. But of course they'll be less resilient to damage. But like you would switch it up depending on the kind of enemies that you're dealing with, and and also considering how it seemed like in the Blade movies, there were your typical familiars who were like a lawyer or just whoever, a mechanic who turned out to really be a traitor, hiding in the mist, that kind of thing. But they also had guys with just tactical gear and guns, your typical just grunts, just shooting that Blade and whatnot, and just getting absolutely ran over. I wonder if I could see how like you would have to switch things up during the day where you're fighting familiars or like maybe like a little underground force of familiars that are beholden to some vampire of that particular hub, and then during the night it completely switches up kind of like in a way that we see with what's the name of that game? Dying Light. I think it's Dying Light. Yeah, Dying Light, where
Dying
like
Light
at
with
night.
zombies.
Yeah, and so instead of zombies, but you're dealing with vampires, and you're dealing with that can actually think, and so the tactics change, the weapons that you use change, and the style of play changes. I think that would be awesome if they implemented something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think you should be able to have the environment change depending on whether or not you proceed to do a mission or drop in or even just roam around in day or night, and that should change dynamically if you are running around at dusk or dawn, right? Like that should be able to work as well too, so that it kind of gives you this like incentive to be able to do both, right? And if you
Mhm.
just exclusively wanted to play nighttime, like that's fine too. We would love to be able to have that kind of mechanic. Like you should be able to have that so that it produces this kind of ability to play how you want to play, right? And I think that as game developers, that should be more common. Whether or not Arcane actually does that is up to them.
Yeah. Now, something that I have seen somewhat debated, and I think I guess like I gotta ask you what your thought is on that. This or that is this game going to be a AAA game or not?
It should have the budget of a AAA game. I don't see why not.
Yeah,
It should
I
have
agree.
the backing and funding of it, and I don't think that historically Marvel would not support a AAA game. If you look, at least in the last decade of Marvel games, right?
Mhm.
So like, I mean, I don't know them off the top of my head, but Marvel games, let's go 2010. So Marvel games since 2010, you had Iron Man 2, Ultimate Spider-Man, you had Shattered Dimensions. All of those games have been fairly decently budget, and if you just look in the last decade, you had Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Miles Morales. Let's see what else you had there.
I think the only AA-ish one I can think of is probably maybe Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, but I don't know what the budget of that was. I just know it just seems like it might have been AA because it didn't really do too much different than what those old school Ultimate Alliance games were like 2 decades ago. That's not 2 decades ago. Was that 2 decades ago? It was two generations ago.
2 generations ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the actual budget for Ultimate Alliance. Maybe we'll never know, Maybe we'll never know.
Yeah.
It would be great to find out, actually, because it was priced as a AAA game. It was $60.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be upset if that game had like a $30 million price tag, right? Yeah, let's see. We had
Slacro in the chat had a question.
Yeah, what's up?
He says, does Arcane have the chops to make an open world game? Does the game need to be open world? Well,
does the game need to be open world? Yeah. Does it? That's a big thing, Is Marvel Snap a AAA game? Look at the budget. Look at Marvel Snap budget. Let's see if there's a budget.
I feel like that makes a lot of money. That's the mobile game, right?
That is the mobile game, yeah. I don't know yet. There's no information on that. I can't I don't know.
Yeah, Robin says Marvel Snap makes the most money. Yeah, I mean, it's if it's a mobile only title that is from a popular IP, I would imagine it makes pretty good money. I used to play back when I used to go into the office for work on a regular basis pre-pandemic. I used to play. You ever heard of Marvel Strike Force?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a turn-based RPG.
I have coworkers that play it. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't played in so long, but I had a clan I was with, and I would do battles, and I would build up my characters, and it's like I tried my best to play that game without actually spending money, and it's really hard to be good if you're not spending money to get your characters in the right spot where you can actually, or get the characters that you want to kind of flesh out like your lineups and stuff. It's almost impossible to do it without spending at least a little bit of money. So yeah, I wouldn't imagine, it wouldn't surprise me if Marvel Snap was making a ton of money, but I don't think those games cost as much as, say,
the funding
like
of 30 million. That would put them at like right under AAA.
yeah.
Like Double H right under AAA. So yeah, I would. Yeah, I think that would put the value of the game around 200 million.
Now, I guess we could start to,
when it comes to support, right? Because how long has Marvel Snap been out?
No, I feel like that came out like a year or two ago.
The game was released October 18th, 2022, after a period of beta testing. So that means it was in development for at least a year, 2 years. So it's been out. It's been ongoing for about 3 years. So if they had funding of 30 million to just drop the game at 2022, so a year of support, yeah, it would definitely be a AAA game. Yeah, Marvel Snap would definitely be considered a AAA game when it comes to budget. It is like half the budget right now of Watch Dogs Legion. Which is like sounds crazy, like in a like logistic standards, like it sounds crazy, but I mean it is what it is.
Yeah. Now, I guess another thing to think about is, when is this finally coming out? Because development just started, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It started not too long ago, I think.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like if AAA development now, I bring it up because AAA development and AA development, like there's the aspect of how much it costs, but then there's also how long it takes to actually deliver on the game and have the game come out. So I remember seeing like a number of different people within the industry say that the average AAA game now is like 5 years. You're a developer. You could let me know. Is that accurate?
That sounds about right. Yeah. 4.5 to 5 years. Yeah.
4.5 to 5. So if that is the case, then we're really kind of looking at this game coming out next gen.
Let's see. Next gen would launch. Let's see. PlayStation 5 launched 2020, end of 2020. So you're looking at, if you're looking at an average, just average, you're looking at 2027 to 2029.
Yeah, and I would say probably 2028 would be seen like more along that speed. So this is I would think by that time period, we're looking at. I'm thinking about how it's a AAA game, so it's going to take a while to come out, but also levels of performance. Like, are we going to be finally done with like a game like this? I would loathe to have to play an action adventure game that's 30 frames per second. You know, like, or still having the option of 30 frames per second. Whereas, especially when you're talking about you're playing on like consoles
you're playing on like at this rate, if we keep the timeline in half, right? Because the average tenureship at Arcane is about 4.5 years. So if you're looking at 4.5 years when it comes to average employee tenureship, which if you guys don't know that, I could
explain tenureship.
I have friends that work in the umbrella, so I know tenureship. Okay. So the median tenureship for Arcane would be like how long an employee usually lasts when it comes to the actual like cycle of a video game, or just like the lifetime career. And that, let's see, how do I describe this?
Is it like their average time frame that an employee works at a particular studio?
Yeah. Like it's it's an average time for an employee after granted the position or an employment of permanent, so full time. So this isn't like a contract. This isn't like a like helping out. This isn't like a internship. This is for tenureship. This is full time, benefits, the whole 9 yards. You stay at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And so for about 4.5 years, being the average tenureship at Arcane, you're looking at like a little over 300 employees. So you're looking at a fair amount of people staying there for the next, the next while. And I think they have like 10 or 11 job openings right now. So if they're still hiring for that, then you're looking at like 4.5 years. If you're looking at the average tenureship, I mean,
The 4.5 years from now, technically, you can say 2024, because technically right now, yeah, I mean, it's like we got what?
Yeah, so you're looking at 2028 at the absolute latest.
So we're looking at on PC completely
on
different
paper,
architectures.
Yeah. On paper, yes.
Right, on paper.
If you're looking at PC, then yes, 20. What's it called? The 5000 series for NVIDIA will be out at the time, if not the 5000 Super or whatever it's called, the 5000.
Well, the 5000 is going to come out in 2025. By then, I'm thinking they might be trying to launch 2 generations past where they are right now. So what, like the 7000 series and whatever the heck AMD comes out with, and Intel might actually have
whatever the hell is going on. Yeah.
Right, Intel might actually have a high-end GPU that's worth a damn at that point, and we're looking at like next generation. So all I'm saying is that like performance-wise, like as a developer, do you look at like, okay, by the time this comes out, do you even think about this stuff now? Like in 2023, by the time this comes out, we should probably want to have performance like where even our quality mode is 60 FPS. Or maybe now, instead of like what we get in 2023, where there's a quality mode that's 30 FPS with all the visual bells and whistles, and a performance mode that's like 1080p, but it's just prioritizing frame rate to hit 60. That like in the future, we're getting like ray tracing mode and no ray tracing mode. You know, like it's
performance mode to be like no ray tracing mode, high settings, and quality mode would be like ultra settings, ray tracing.
Right, but I feel like you have to be at that point. Like even the quality mode needs to be 60 FPS at that point. Like, is that something that's like thought of at all? Like, hey, and this is probably like in general at this point, really honestly, like
yeah. I think that right now, what's it called? How do I explain this? With my current work, right, being a project manager, we're only a couple years out away from the next generation. Just consideration of the next generation, right?
Okay.
So in 2 years' time, they'll start shopping around and asking like, "Hey Mo, what would you like the next PlayStation to have? What would you like the next Xbox to have?" And you would say,
yeah,
more CPU cores.
Yeah, definitely,
more storage.
Definitely that. You're right.
I would like, uncapped power draw. I would like blah blah blah, this and that. All right, and we're like, okay, I'll write it down, Mo. Thanks, appreciate it. So, like, it definitely has to be in consideration in the next couple years. So, if this game does take 4 years to make. So by 2027, the next generation will be in consideration, and will be like they'll be bidding on it, and they will be, well, I say bidding as if NVIDIA might actually do anything. AMD probably will get the bid again.
Yeah,
which should be fine. I'm fine with the current power of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, right? So like AMD will bid on it again. So whatever AMD comes out with in the next 4 or 5 years, will be sold to the console manufacturers. And so, yeah, when those specs hit and when those specs are being shopped around and when those dev kits are being created, they will know. We will know. Game developers will know what the next generation will target and what it will be. So if this game does spend 4 years in development, by that point, it'll be one of two things. It'll either be drop it on the current gen or cross gen. It'll be that simple. And then obviously because they're under the Microsoft umbrella, cross gen will probably be something that already is in consideration as is.
Yeah, I feel like cross-gen has to be on the table for if it because it's coming out at the latest. Let's say you have a worst case scenario. There's a couple of delays. You gotta do some rescoping during development, and you need to kind of push some things back. Let's say it comes out 2029.
Okay.
That's still only maybe a year or two after the new generation has started. And look at this current generation right now. We're just now starting to get rid of the Xbox One and the PS4 as supported platforms and games that launch right now. So I could see a year or two out from the next generation, you're definitely talking like a cross-platform game. Like a cross-gen game, because you're not going to want to completely cut off a player base that you've built up over the course of potentially 8 years with a big release game. And so, it would just make sense to me that it would stay cross-gen and not just be the next thing, the next hottest thing. But which then gets to.
Which the 4.5, okay, so given the metrics for the 4.5-year tenureship, and then looking at the actual announcement and the release, not the announcements, but the actual releases of the last two previous games for Arcane Leon, you're looking at Dishonored 2 in 2016. So if I look at actual Dishonored 2, so I want to look at the actual release date, because that also matters as well too, because 11th of November, so late in the year 2016.
And then they released Deathloop in 2021.
Yes, with the delay of work from home, right? It released September 14th, 2021. So let's just round
5
that up.
years.
Let's round that up to 2 months, right? So you're looking at 5 whole years of development from launch to launch for one studio, from launch to launch. And then if you're looking at Deathloop, if you're looking at what's it called? Deathloop announcements.
Ooh, well, hold on. It's been Deathloop came out in 2021.
Yes, it's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years.
Yes.
I can't imagine Arcane Leon has just been twiddling their thumbs and playing Call of Duty while at work the entire time for the past 2 years, right? So I don't know, but maybe they're further along than we think. Maybe they're like,
they would to me, logistically, they would be building technology. They would be creating things.
Oh, okay.
They would be enhancing their toolkits so that by the time pre-production rolled around for the actual game that they have settled on, they have everything they need. They just need to create the art, hire the people.
Okay, so that's a way you use that time period to build up your tools and and whatnot.
So you don't technically actually sit around doing nothing, but you sit around making sure that the next game is properly, the foundation is already laid, right? So by the time you create this game, by the time they settled on this game, I have some friends that work at Arcane, and they say on Twitter and actively they say like, oh yeah, like the game, like we just started, like it'll be in development, like it's starting development, and obviously we have the holiday break, so by the new year 2024 it should start pre-production. So that means like art, concept art, prototypes, stuff will be done in 2024, at least within the first 6 months, and then everything within the first 6 months, within the first 8 months, should be nailed down when it comes to style, genre, rating. Obviously they've done style and genre already and rating, so they're a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to actual pre-production work. So at this point in time, like full production shouldn't be too bad. So the reveal trailer for Deathloop dropped June 11th, 2020, so 1 year ahead, and then the game dropped a year later. If you're looking at Dishonored 2, the actual what's it, announcement trailer, they announced it E3 2015. So for Arcane Leon's track record, their trailers drop about a year, maybe a year and a half before the actual game drops. So if you're looking at building the tools before the game gets starts pre-production, and then you're looking at the average tenureship, you're looking at 2026. If you look at the actual track history of the studio, you're looking at, and of course this was before they were purchased and acquired by Microsoft. So you do have to take into consideration the umbrella that Arcane has when it comes to the actual backing now. You do have to take that into consideration as well too, and the new president, Sarah Bond. So the amount of things that can be leveraged in the oncoming years when it comes to the actual mission statement of how they want to create content and how they want to push content out. You know, if you look at the announcement, they're 2 for 2 right now, right? And we can go back even further, you know, to their like indie development days. If you look at the announcement for Dishonored, the announcement, debut trailer, launch trailer, let's see, blah blah blah.
Real quick, shout out to J0387 says Blade was always a dark mature IP because of how dark the Wesley Snipes first Blade film was back then. I'm not getting that with this. Jack can understand your feeling about that because the teaser trailer really isn't. It doesn't give you anything. Like it's not, and that may be because there's nothing to give because they haven't reached full production yet. So they may not even know, like, outside of the setting where they're going to be going story wise. But I think outside of him, it cutting after he pulls his blade, you know, off his back, there's just nothing really to show. And I think it's more of, if you remember the Indiana Jones teaser trailer,
yes,
where you don't even see like the main character may not even be Indiana Jones. Like I have no freaking idea. Like it's
completely different.
All they showed you was a table with like I think a Bible was on it, and his whip, and a bunch of other stuff, his hat. And that's it. All just to say, hey, it's Indiana Jones. Like, we don't know anything else about it. I think that we can't put too much stock into what a teaser trailer shows us to determine how a full game is going to be, like 4 to 5 years from now. So that's just kind of, I would say, just kind of hold off on the determination that it's not something that you may not want to get into. And then Dorian Gray made something that was an interesting point I kind of want to discuss real quick. He says, I just know I want to Dishonored 3. And Dishonored 3 completely has left my mind ever since this game has been announced. I'm okay with
Dishonored 3 not being made. But anyways, to finish out that thought process, actually,
go ahead.
Arcane Leon is actually 3 for 3 because the announcement trailer for Dishonored came out like a year before, and then it dropped October 11th, 2012. So Arcane Leon's reputation for trailers to announcement trailers, right? Trailers to game is 3 for 3, 1.5 years. Take that into consideration, what you may, you know, like whether or not that has impact on your thing. But their track record is consistent, and this was all the way back to the indie days when they were just Arcane, right? And then now they're under Umbrella. So
So
Again,
are you suggesting this might not be too early of a teaser trailer? That it might be coming
I'm
sooner than we think?
keep an open mind about
Okay.
the amount of manpower that they have working on the game, because they're over
Mm-hmm.
300 employees now. Just that
Really?
studio alone, they're over 300 employees now, right?
Leon alone is
Yes,
300
Leon
employees?
alone. Yes.
I did not know that.
Um,
For some reason, I thought they were the same size as Austin, but they're
no,
like more
Arcade Austin is
actually
like
like
100, I think.
this is 3 times the size as Austin. Okay,
Yeah.
that is
Let me-
interesting.
Yes, I would have to look. Give me a quick second. Austin has, yeah, just under 200 people. So yeah, about half the size.
Yeah.
So you're looking at
No,
300
Erodimus,
people.
I don't think Deli is saying 2020. like he just let's just dispel that right now. I don't think he's saying 2025.
No, I haven't said 2025. No. 2026 by the absolute. Yeah, I think I would say if I were had a number on it, Erodimus penned me down for late 2025, early 2026.
Okay.
So
Well, I don't. I guess we can finish things up because unless you want, there's something else outside of Blade you want to talk about. If there were any questions in the chat that we could answer, you guys could send them through now as we start to wrap things up. I don't want to hold you too, for too
it's
long.
all good, man. It's all good.
People start asking like, "Where you at?"
they're gonna be like, "How do you know this stuff?" And I'm gonna be like, "Oh, I gotta go." Blade X said, "What about PS5 Pro?" I have a gut feeling that PS5 Pro.
Have you seen the quote unquote leaks of the PS5 Pro? Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now, I don't believe any of those leaks. I think somebody was getting a little.
Gaming hardware leaker Tom Henderson and Inside Gaming head reported on X that Sony expects all specifications of upcoming PS5 Pro consoles to leak this month. According to Henderson, Sony believes this is because PS5 Pro dev kits will be making our way to third-party studios this month, opening the opportunity for leakers to get a sneak peek at the upcoming hardware. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. But can we get a sneak peek of the actual hardware, please? Let's go on to Resetera. And this is definitely the most, credible website ever for rumors. Codename Trinity, blah, blah, blah. 18 gigabytes per second GDDR6, target November 2024. Viola, 4 nanometer process for TSMC. Okay. Viola CPU is maintaining the Zen 2 architecture found in the existing PS5 for compatibility. It's not really how compatibility works, but okay. The frequency will once again be dynamic with a peak of 4 gigahertz. Okay, that's fine, I guess. 64 kilobytes of L1 cache, 8 megabytes of L3 shared. My CPU has more than that, but okay. 4 megabytes per CCX. Okay.
I mostly didn't believe the leak just because what Tom Henderson said. One, Tom Henderson has been the only leaker that has been accurately leaking things that Sony has been doing. That's one, right? Two, he said that the dev kits are just being delivered this month. So the leaks that are coming out, like it's a little too early for accurate leaks of what the PS5 Pro dev kits are actually working with.
Don't believe these leaks, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't believe them either. Yeah.
Trinity core tenets are fast storage, accelerated ray tracing, and upscaling. One, fast storage is already a thing. Like, we already have hardware accelerated compression, decompression in the systems. It's already a key technology for the PS5, so whatever, doesn't matter. Accelerated ray tracing, I don't know what accelerated means, okay? Like, ray tracing is software now. It's not that big of a deal, blah, blah, blah. Upscaling is fine. FSR is like free. So you could just, put it in the games, whatever. It takes like an hour and a half to implement. Not that big of a deal. Upscaling should not necessarily be a thing that's like a core tenet for these consoles.
Right.
Architecture is RDNA 3, like okay, but it's going to be more power draw, but you can't make the system too big because right now
Yeah.
it currently only has 50 UCUs, and I don't yeah, I just don't believe these leaks at all. Like, you know, I don't believe these leaks. I'm looking at it right now from this spec sheet that they're so-called allegedly leaking.
I don't believe any leaks on the PS5 Pro until next month. I think
Yeah,
we'll probably see some real stuff next month. Some real, and not all the data, but maybe like little things here and there may get
28
leaked by then.
teraflops is kind of like, why would you create a PS4 Pro that is 2 times the teraflops when you have this, like you just refreshed the Pro for higher production, like profit yields? Like to me, why would you create a machine that's twice as powerful, or 2.5 times as powerful as like the original one you launched? That's not necessarily a Pro. That's just genuinely like a next. Like that's like, you know what I mean? Like that's like a
Mm-hmm.
it's like a next generation thing. Like that's PS6 at that point. If you're looking at 2.5 time yield for
Right.
teraflops,
And we clearly don't have any PS6 data yet. I mean, they don't even
yeah.
know. They at this point they wouldn't have even nailed down the kind of like who be doing it. Whether AMD is definitely doing it, and if the AMD is
AMD
definitely doing it, AMD doesn't have the
signed
architecture.
well, they hasn't signed the contract yet. They haven't signed the bid yet. You would know because it would be in their their earnings recall.
Okay.
So because they're a publicly traded company, so you can't hide that. You know what I mean? Like legally, you can't hide that. So I'm not.
Yeah,
Really,
it's not real. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake.
It's fake news.
But what is real is that likely it's going to release this time. That probably a little bit earlier. You know, of course, like October ish time period, but holiday of 2024, it's likely going to release. Tom Henderson has been spot on with everything PlayStation hardware related.
He's good. He's got a lot of sources. He triple checks all of his stuff. So yeah, he's good at what he does. I just don't believe these specs. Now he didn't report the specs, so I understand that.
Right.
So
his stance was, I don't speak on other people's leaks. We're just like, you ain't getting this from me.
Yeah, the only thing he reported was that we will be getting leaks because the third-party studios are getting new dev kits, which that's a fair thing to report, you know. And he would only know the third-party studios are getting the dev kits if he had inside sources, which is again fair deal. Crow, I did answer your last question, brother. There's no need for it to be open world unless it serves the gameplay and the world. So making things open world is pointless unless there's a reason for it to be open world. It works for Spider-Man 2 because New York City is awesome. Would it work for Paris? I don't know. Does it need to work for Paris? I don't know. So there, that answers your question. And then Blade X, what about PS5 Pro? Hopefully that answers your question. Erodimus, I am not saying 2025, but 2026, you can say. Deli said 2026, so there you go. Have at it. Have fun with that one. Go crazy on Twitter, at me, whatever.
Do you see Erodimus' last question when he says, do you think Sony would be petty enough not to give Xbox Studio... Well, I guess... Xbox Studios, because they got a number of games that will be running on that hardware. PS5 Pro and PS6 dev kits.
This would be easily remedied by just having an Xbox studio make a multi-platform game. Done. We need the dev kits.
Well, no, I think that's what he's talking about, because now Activision with Call of Duty first party studio, something that actually came up during the FTC trials or whatever, hearings, whatever you want to call them. was I believe Jim Ryan said that they may decide to delay providing dev kits to Activision because they didn't want information on what those dev kits are getting to their competition sooner before they go reveal what that
before they're
hardware
yeah,
is.
before they're
Yeah,
live. That could
right.
be possible, but I mean, I don't. That's just lawyer speak to like have like for your consideration. I don't necessarily think that's credible enough. Now, do I think PlayStation will be that petty? I'm sure. I'm sure. You know, they're a business, not a soup kitchen. So I can understand the logistics and legality behind that. But it really comes down to, hey, we want to make a multi-platform game, give us the dev kits.
Yeah.
Or the multi-platform game is going to be delayed. And if Sony signs on the dotted line that says, yeah, we would like this game to be multi-platform, it would be that and that only. Which then we would have a studio would have to pay for the dev kits, and whether or not Sony ships them on time, whatever on time quote unquote is up to them. But if if the studio pays for it, we better fucking get it. So yeah, do I think it'd be petty? Yeah. Do I think that they're really gonna take it there? No, I don't think they're gonna take it there, especially having the umbrella that Microsoft has right now is like damn near a quarter of the industry. I wouldn't want that to be the hill I die on if I were PlayStation, personal opinion.
Now, to kind of keep to the same tone, right? Does Activision need a PS5 Pro dev kit when they have PS5 dev kits really to make the next Call of Duty, annual Call of Duty? Yeah, it's going to come out on the PS5 Pro, but if anything, wouldn't that just be kind of just hurting PlayStation gamers?
It would be hurting PlayStation gamers, and I think that as a customer centric business model that Jim Ryan has catered to, which you know you can argue that he's got some weird practices over the last few years, but to be fair, this is quite a good time to be a PlayStation gamer. There's a lot of peripherals, there's a lot of support, there's a lot of software support, there's constant updates. Dude, I've had more updates to my PlayStation 5 in like less than in this last year that I've ever had for my PlayStation 4 the first few years. I don't care what anybody says, and then even less so for the PlayStation 3. It is a good time, regardless of how anybody believes it, to be a PlayStation owner. It is a great time to be an Xbox owner. The support here is phenomenal, rolling out these new next gen consoles. But yeah, I don't think Jim Ryan would, or whoever, Jim Ryan too. I don't think the next CEO would not carry forward that consumer centric thinking when it comes to the PlayStation brand.
Yeah, and Arama says Mojang, I think, still don't have PS5 dev kits, and that's why there's no next gen. I don't think that's why there's not a next gen version of Minecraft. I mean, just like, look, yo, have you seen Minecraft? Do you need like what does a next gen version of Minecraft look like? Like it looks just like the game that's on the PS. That's a PS4 version of the game. It looks no different. If in my opinion, the game is like Roblox. Like, do you need PS5 dev kits to put Roblox on PlayStation? I would say probably not. It still looks like trash. No offense to Roblox
doesn't Minecraft PS5 use the PS4 version of the game?
I believe so.
Isn't it that the same for the Xbox Series S and X as well?
I'm not 100% certain on that.
I would double down on that one. For me, anyways, I would double down. I don't think that there's an optimized, quote unquote, optimized version of the Series S and X for Minecraft. Like,
yeah, and then you have the outsourced Minecraft games like Legends and Dungeons that were created far more recently. Those games are on PS5, and they have to have had actual dev kits for those games. I believe, like they had to have like PS5 dev kits for those games. I don't know if they're cross gen or not. They probably are cross gen, but like I I'm not going to
Oh,
check right now.
yeah. Okay. So 6/9/2023. So 6 months ago, in a statement to Eurogamer, Microsoft said the listings aren't indicative of any new version of the game set to launch in the future. Given the number of platforms and geographies in the Minecraft in which Minecraft is available, we periodically go through rating reviews and updates with different regional boards, but that's it. A spokesperson told us this recent rating is not indicative of any new version of the platform. Yeah, so there's not even an S or X version, so there's really no reason for a Minecraft a dev kit for the PS5. There's not even a Series S and X version. So yeah,
Yeah.
Rodimus, I don't. That's just a radical headline.
Yeah. Plus, again, you don't
Minecraft on
need it.
PC has ray tracing. Yeah, who cares? That's Minecraft PC ray tracing isn't supported by Microsoft as much as it's supported by Nvidia. So that's like an Nvidia thing because Nvidia did Doom with ray tracing, and they don't own the IP to Doom, so
Yeah.
they did it just because they can, or
Yeah.
Quake or whatever.
But by the way, have you seen Lego Fortnite?
I have, and it looks fantastic. I'm gonna be honest with you. I
I've
was
played
just
it for like an hour. Like it's.
Is it good?
Look, I don't even like survival games, and
like
I was, but yeah, I was in there. And I was building stuff and cutting down trees and all. Let me find gameplay for that because I think I recorded it. But yeah, Fortnite's coming for everybody's neck.
Fortnite
because
being a hub, like creative center is awesome. Like, my younger sister was playing the rhythm game, and I was like, you've never played Guitar Hero? She's like, what's that? I forget that she's like 17 or like she's like 18 or 19. And I was like, oh, that's right. Guitar Hero hasn't been out in the last decade. So right now they're really coming for like everything that's been dormant this last decade. And it's honestly, I applaud them. They should do it.
This can't be it. Was it? I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the game. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. This
like
is
really
my
sick though.
Yeah, like it looks good. It's
oh my god.
They're the only people who can get Unreal Engine 5 to run right. So it's pretty cool. Like I ended up playing it for like a good hour, which for me is a lot. And then I actually helped my friend whose son has his own little world, but he's in like on easy mode where he gets like unlimited resources. So he like built like a freaking town in like 5 minutes. I'm exaggerating,
That's
but like
so cool though.
But
like,
it takes a lot to build stuff.
This partnership is really insane. If you guys didn't know, this is a funny little story in the game dev industry. Like, this is something that you would only know if you were a game developer. But if you didn't know, I would share this story with you because this is funny. Lego, the partnership with Epic is a pretty big deal because in video games, when it comes to like creative creative like worlds with Lego, there's actually a Lego filtering tool in which you Lego, like the company Lego itself has this tool that filters all on-screen images and gameplay or whatever to scan for penises or penis-shaped items.
That's funny.
And if it sees one, it instantly axes your gameplay. Like, it instantly cuts it off and reports it. Right. So in one of the old in playtesting, a game developer almost lost his job because he was building he was building like the Twin Towers, but like he was making like a dong shaped item, and it was like during a playtest, and somebody from Lego walked in, and he was not prepared for this, and he almost lost his job. Because he was creating something behind the scenes while a playtest was going on. And because he was creating something behind the scenes while a playtest was going on, the Lego representative came in and he literally he tipped over the screen and he was like, nothing's going on here. And because if they saw him that he was working on something, they would have to run the tool through it. And he was building something because he was anticipating the world, like people to build the Twin Towers, which unfortunately people did in like the first 24 hours of the game, but
Of
You
course.
as a game developer have to anticipate that, but because he wasn't abiding by the laws or the rules that were set by Lego, and he was building something that wasn't being actively run through the tool, he almost lost his job. So which like that's why he like freaked out when the Lego representative came into the room, because he had to like shut it all down. Like it was super funny hearing that. But like yes, Lego has a tool that scans all of this stuff. So what
It's the dick scanner.
Yes, it's basically like the phallic shape scanner. So what Epic Games has here accomplished with the partnership with Lego is not a small thing. It is absolutely massive. And dude, yeah,
But
I'm thoroughly impressed with Epic Games.
yeah, the amount of things that you can build, I mean, it's diverse but limited at the same time. It's because like you can like on the screen right now, I was building the shack, but it's like they basically give you the 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 blueprint of how to build it. Like you start out with enough resources to just make the foundation, and then you just go from there to build the rest of it. And I think at this point, this is like me, like my first hour playing the game. But like I got a couple of my friends who and by the way, like you can invite people in to play with you. I don't know how many people. It might be a max 4, like how it is with, you know how you play Fortnite,
Yeah.
squads of 4, but you can invite people in and they could be a guest in your world, but they don't have access to it all the time. You can give people quote unquote keys to your world, and you can give out 7 of those. And so I gave out keys to my friends, and now my friends can just go in and just start keep building stuff. And there's like, you know, you could fight, you know, animals and the elements and stuff. Like at night, skeletons come out and will attack. During the day, you'll deal with wolves. There's caves you can go into. I got lost in the cave for like a long time trying to find my way out. It was completely pitch black. I couldn't see nothing. I forgot to make a torch, so I was just basically just trying to rely on whatever like ambient light that was going on in there, which wasn't very frequent. And I barely got out of there with my life, but it was pretty cool. You know, like I'm not really into. Like I said, I'm not into survival games like this. Like my friends like them, so I was like, all right, well, you know, they got a Lego Fortnite thing. You guys want to try? Because they loved Grounded, even though I was just like, I'm only playing this because y'all playing this. Y'all know that, right? And but this was actually pretty decent. I like this one. Yeah,
That's really good. You know, that's good that it's got what's it called? That's good that it's got like this kind of support and this kind of vision behind it. It looks fantastic. Like it looks super good. And I don't know, like I said, like it being like this hub world for creativity and like this like Roblox system, I'm really impressed. And I think there's going to be a point in time, and if this may be it, but there's going to be a point in time where they reveal something and that I'm like, I just gotta play it, man. Like maybe I'm old, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've been resistant to change, maybe I should go play Fortnite, and maybe Fortnite is really fun.
Hey man,
so this may be
come
it.
on through, man. It's just I was playing Fortnite the other night. Shout out to Cat in the chat. We got our own little method for the new map. You know, we go drop here at this one place. We kill this boss. We get his stuff. We open this vault. We go in. We there's a mod bench there where we can now you can actually modify your weapons and add attachments and like scopes and muzzles and all kinds of new stuff. We do all that. We go to this other like forecast tower, like a weather tower that gives us the forecast of where the circle is closing next, and then we just start basically wiping out whoever is left, and it's pretty successful, man. You gotta come through sometime. But before we finish up, Dorian Gray did have one question. He said, Deli, what's your opinion of Hellblade 2 now after the last trailer?
My opinion has stayed the same. It looks good.
But what about combat though? Because that's the one, I guess, the chief thing.
I think when I saw it, I was sitting here in my chair going, well, it's more the same. Like, okay. Like, combat isn't gameplay. Like, it's not all like not all gameplay is just combat. So
Hmm.
I can deal with the combat being like structurally weaker than the rest of the game. As long as it still gives me like a genuinely good time all around as an entire package. I don't think my feelings have changed about it. I know I spoke to what's it called? I spoke to Mo about this like on DPS like years ago. What it feels like years ago, but like months ago, where I don't expect I would like Hellblade 2 to have like up its ability in combat, like up its foundational and structure support in combat, but I don't expect it to. So I wasn't necessarily surprised when I saw that the combat looked, from what the news trailer looked, relatively the same.
Yeah.
I
I
wasn't. I
mean,
wasn't.
there were
hurt.
like two things that were different. You got like an NPC partner with you that like fights with you, and which at combat wise, that's one. There's some enemies who aren't focused on you, solely on you
Yeah.
in combat, and they're also looking at this other NPC character who is more than likely in a single player game not going to be so effective that you can rely on them to get you out of situations, but at least to distract the enemies from you. And then the fact that they showed her using like a hatchet, it looked like as well, so she has different weapons than before. But yeah, it does look essentially like, I mean, I haven't looked at or played Hellblade in years, but the actual animation of her attacking some of these enemies look very, very like almost identical to what it was in Hellblade 1, which I more than likely probably thinking it's not really identical. It just looks very similar because they were like mo-capped, and I guess they taught the actress to acted out in a very similar way that she did with the in the first game, but it just looked so similar. I'm just, yeah, you shout out to Luca said the same thing about, she was speculating why we hadn't seen combat yet. You guys were right. We probably didn't really see combat prior to now because there just wasn't much to show. It wasn't going to be a dramatic improvement or change from the first game.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I'm okay with that because the core gameplay loop isn't necessarily combat heavy, nor is it like the focus of the game. So I can deal with that being like the quote unquote the reason why combat isn't evolved, or like there isn't
Hmm.
a combat 2.0. It's okay, guys. We'll be all right. That's all I have to say about that. Deli, have you seen Leave the World Behind with Julia Roberts? I've not. I'm
Yeah,
not much of a TV show watcher, but I will say,
it's a movie. It's a movie on
oh, the
Netflix.
movie. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm not really.
apparently the Obamas have a
It's like that.
production company,
Huh.
and they produced this. This is like their first movie, their first thing. It's
Leave the
got
World Behind.
Julia Roberts is in it, Kevin
Ethan
Bacon,
Hawke,
Ethan
Mahershala
Hawke.
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah,
I may have to check this one out, buddy.
it's I
Family Vacation
watched
on
it over
Mars.
the weekend. It's about 2 hours long. That you ever see the TV show on HBO called Industry?
No, no.
Well, there's the main actress in that is this black girl. She's like 4'2" or something. She's very tiny, but she's also in this too. She's very good. It's well acted in this. It's a pretty interesting movie. It's like takes on like, I don't want to spoil it, yeah, because it kind of gets into it, but it was pretty good.
Okay.
I liked it.
I will check it out. It's based on a book. All right, cool. I
It
will.
oh, it is.
Yes, from 2020. So the book was written recently. Um, Based on the 2020 novel, the same name by Ruman Alam. So okay, cool.
Hmm.
I will check that out. I know I've been watching the Godzilla Apple TV Plus show, which is
I gotta watch that,
Woo,
yo.
that thing is heat.
It's
I was
on
like,
my, yeah.
I didn't expect the human drama to be kind of okay. Like it's compelling enough. Like it's not bad. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. I thought it was just gonna be some schlocky mess because normal MonsterVerse things, but
Mm-hmm.
it has held my interest, and I was four episodes in before I knew it, while I was at work. So people were like, you know, what you watching, buddy? And I was like, uh, uh,
Hey, I got the funniest story. This is part of also why the reason why I'm glad I don't work in the office anymore. I back then I used to I was tier 2 working in the knock. So I wasn't
mhm.
just doing typical knock stuff. I was mostly at the time doing a lot, similar to what I'm doing now, but basically just configuring routers and opening up ports and stuff like that. There's a lot of like network design things, but not on the level that I do now. Anyway, I'm in the office. I'm at my desk, and what show was it? There was something on HBO that I was watching on my phone as I was working, and it just so happened that it's HBO, right? It
Of course.
started showing something that like
Was not work approved.
not work good. It wasn't good for work. And my manager walks up behind me, and I'm not even looking at the screen. I got my earbuds on, I hear it, and I know like it's dude, you know, they get it when they getting it on. But I'm working, I'm typing something, and he just looks over me just like, oh really? And I just like, I vaguely hear it because I got my earbuds in. And I look, I'm just like, what? And I look down, look at my phone, and I'm just like, oh, hey, look, man, it's that. I wasn't even paying attention to that. He was just like, okay. He like, I ain't getting in trouble for it, but it was just like, you gotta be careful at work. You
Of
gotta be
course.
careful, man.
It's not safe for work for a reason, you know. That's why that thing that's why that acronym exists, you know.
Yeah. Oh man.
Let's see. I watched that show too, Deli watching because lead actress. Actually, I think the lead character is insufferable. I think she is a terrible human being. I would stop watching the show for her. But I do like the flashback sequences because if you didn't know, Mo, the story takes place in two different eras of time. So Skull Island era and
Okay.
post Godzilla 2014 era, so like 2015, 2016 era. And it jumps back and forth between the two. And it kind of like Skull Island era builds like how Monarch was created, and then current day is like how Monarch is. So it's pretty neat. It's not, like I said, it's not too super heavy on the monsters, but that's okay because the human drama ain't so bad. I've seen worse. I've watched Godzilla 2014. I've seen the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, when you see this what do they call it? I keep forgetting it. Never leave the world behind. When you
Yeah.
see Julia Roberts' character is probably good. When you mentioned main character being super annoying, Julia Roberts' character is so annoying in this movie, and it's funny because it's like she's this middle-aged know-it-all like soccer mom white woman, and but all she listens to is like 90s black people R&B.
Get her out of here, pack her shit
Yo,
up.
and I was just like, I'm watching the movie in the very beginning. I think she's listening to remember that R&B group Next?
I think so. Maybe. Were they?
Maybe that was later on.
They were right before Boys to Men, right?
After, I think they were after Boys to Men.
Okay.
But
Maybe
it wasn't. It was one of the Next songs, but I think it was at later in the movie. Earlier in the movie, she's listening to something else that was just like, I'm just like, you listen to this? It was just shocking. And then later on, she's like in a pressure situation.
Oh Lord.
Right. Oh yeah. You just like, oh, so you like our music, but you're wondering how it's possible that black people could afford a very prestigious home in a very affluent area. I'm just like,
Mm-mm-mm.
Okay. It's just hey, you like the music, but that's it, huh? So it's interesting. You'll see it. You'll see it. There's a lot of it's got a lot of moments like that where characters are kind of exposing some of their prejudice against other people, American or just like classes of certain kinds of Americans and whatnot. It's a pretty interesting movie. I think it's pretty thought provoking. But
Okay.
let's go ahead and get out of here, man. Deli, thank you for coming through, man. Appreciate you,
problem.
bro. I got your.
It's always fun.
Absolutely. I got your stuff in the description, your YouTube and your Twitter account. I believe all that stuff is accurate. I just copy and pasted it from the last time it was on, so it should be
accurate. Yeah.
But if any, let everyone know what else you might got in store for anything you're doing social media wise in the future.
For Twitter, I will be doing design studies on third-person action adventure games going into this year because of a project I'm working on. And I may be debuting some inspirational work, quote unquote, that may or may not be related to my actual work in the future. So that'll be a whole lot of fun.
Are you going to play Tomb Raider Definitive Edition so you can stop slandering it?
First off, I'm going to be real with you, man. That's the worst one out of the trilogy. And it's the worst one out of the trilogy. But let me
Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
It's okay. At least, you know what? I'm not gonna go there. I will argue with you on stream about it. I'll argue on stream about it. All right, because this is important. I will revisit it because it has been 10 whole years since the original reboot came out, and I do need to replay it just to make sure that my opinions still stand and or my feelings have not changed about the actual game. Right? Because it has been 10 years, and I do know a lot more now than I did when I first originally played it, and I do know a lot. I'm a lot more experienced now in game development than I was just even a few years ago. So I still think Shadow is bad. They're both equally bad, but I think I think the
have got
edition is worse.
Zero experience in game development, and I'm going to tell you my lack of expertise tells me the Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the worst of the trilogy. I think. And I just based it off of the fact that
it's pretty bad.
I was so bored.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think I was watching an old video that I did for design study like 3 years ago. And I was talking about it, and I was playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and then there was a section where I had paused like my game, and I was like very angry at that moment. I'm sure I'll record it and send it to you. But it's like I was like, why the
I'm sure
hell
you had a lot of moments like that.
This game? Yeah, no, I think I played it on super easy mode because I was like I can't stomach playing this game for very long. But yeah, I was like quite mad with the actual game because I was like, this is horrendous. And then that final sequence was pretty bad too. But
I actually kind of feel like all of Crystal Dynamics Tomb Raider games have a bad final sequence with the how they ended. It seems like they never really figured out how to end those games well. I think they all kind of suck at the end. But just real quick, I feel like Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, the first one, has the best story. I think all around, Rise of the Tomb Raider is the best of the trilogy.
Tomb Raider has the better story. I think the Definitive Edition has. I mean, to me, I think I have a lot of gripes with the original story, or like the Definitive Edition story. Frankly, only because of the just because the Whitman angle is just so bad. Like he's just horrendous. Like he's just a horrendous character. And
the guy that was like betraying them, that guy.
Oh man, don't even get me started. That shit was.
But there's a cat. Look, it wasn't just him. There's the rest of the crew is there. She's trying to find people. Her mentor. She's trying to he dies, and it's way more compelling because there's more characters than just that one douchebag. But then in the other games, it's like they just got rid of all of them, and they just left you with Sir Friendzone. Like the little Samoan guy that could.
And Shadow the Tomb Raider does it worse than anything else when it comes to Jonah's character. At least in Rise of the Tomb Raider, Jonah had a purpose, which was an expedition friend, which was fine.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's why I say Rise is the best one. And it also tonally is the most consistent, which is like bars in hell. But you know, tonal consistency is important. At least
I
in
agree with
Rise.
that.
Because in
I agree
Shadow
with that.
and Definitive, dude, there was a sequence in Shadow where like she has like she comes out of the water after this flashback, and she jumps out of this water, then stabs a guy to death, and then drops an F-bomb toward like on the radio towards like the bad guy. Then she has her little Rambo moment where she murders like 50 people. And then she has a break like immediately afterwards, she's like on the beach, she has a breakdown. Jonah, surprise, isn't dead. He comes out of the blue, and then she gets mad. She like flips heel turns almost immediately. She stops crying and she gets upset at Jonah. And then she has like her little vulnerable breakdown, and then she gets back up, and then she goes back to slaughtering
slaughtering a small army. It's just Jonah's
totally,
like
it's totally a mess. It's a mess altogether. And Definitive is exactly like that as well too. She has nothing but mental breakdowns the entirety of the game, and then as soon as
it makes sense. It makes sense in Definitive because she hasn't done anything.
She kills people almost damn near immediately. And I don't want to hear it, because the first time she has the 1911 in her hand, she's like going with this like kidnapping situation, and they're about to kill her, and she's like, no, and then she immediately kills the guy, and then she's like, oh my god, what have I done?
But she has to quickly get over it, because it's like, but she has no choice, because they're coming after her, and then she's like fighting off wolves. And you know, it at least makes sense.
It's not very survival expert of her if she's not willing to do what she needs to survive. A personal opinion. I don't think Lara Croft, coming from a place of expertise and tomb raiding. Although to be fair, she was real lack of tomb.
She was real green. She was real green at that time. This is like her first outing. Yeah,
but it's still tonally a mess. Not as much as Shadow the Tomb Raider, but at least Shadow the Tomb Raider had the most diverse gameplay mechanics and didn't have an oppressively linear story. Which
I think what I really hated about Shadow, real quick, is just the villain. She's talking to the villain, right? Remember the flood?
Yeah.
And like there's like a whole town of people die because Lara like took something, and it's just like she has no accountability for the fact all these people are dead because of her own actions. It's just kind of like, you know.
And to be fair, she had almost killed Jonah early in the game, and then immediately was like, come on, Jonah, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you are actively on the side of a mountain about to die. Like, jump down. Like, if you slip and fall, you're gonna fall off this cliff. But she's like, basically, she just calls Jonah like, a little girl, and was like, get over it, buddy. And I'm like, you know, literally 30 seconds earlier, you have this cutscene in which she apologizes to Jonah for almost like for putting his life at risk. And it's again, it's as if whoever does the gameplay is completely in a different time zone than whoever makes the story, because it just doesn't make sense. And that's partial, and I blame that on the level designers, because they're in charge of creating stuff and doing like cues and setting up dialogues and stuff like that coincide with narrative, like the character's journey through the narrative. So yeah, I have a beef with that entire trilogy's like level design, because none of that stuff makes sense. It's bad.
I look forward to your breakdown of all this stuff, because it's just I always find this stuff fascinating to hear from developers when they look at, you know, and you're not like being, you know, mean the Crystal Dynamics. You're just kind of like just giving it, your own, look of it and seeing where things work and where things don't work, kind of thing. So it's just
these conversations happen in studio all the time. It's just there's a way to say things without saying like the game is absolute shite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. The games are fine. Like obviously, I bought 3 of them, right? Like they're fine, and I continue to support them. But it's not like I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. And yeah, I think the reboot trilogy is bad. Although it's not like Lara Croft's had nothing but 10 out of 10 outings. So they're pretty decent for Lara Croft standards, but I think they're bad.
I think they're okay. But it's all right. Let's get out of here.
They're like 7 out of 10. You know what I mean? I would say they're like 6s.
Oh no, not 7 out of 10. Not 7 out of 10. That's a horrible game.
Oh,
7 out of 10 is horrible.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I wouldn't recommend them to people unless they're fans. To me, anyways. Yeah. Thank you so much for having that debate. I know it's an ongoing debate. This is like a 3-year debate now since we've been friends. You've been.
What was the other game that you said it was better than that? There was another IP that's similar that we were debating. I can't remember what the other one was. Probably because it sucks. But like, you were saying it was better. And I just couldn't remember. I can't even remember where it is now. It's going. This is going to bother me for like the rest of the day,
it's gonna pop back up in your brain in the most inopportune time. I know
it's gonna be like 2 a.m. I'm gonna be sending you a message like it's this,
and I'll be like, yeah, it was, But we're also the other franchise that we're also split on is Mass Effect, where I don't necessarily like the first game, and the second game was okay. I think the second game was marginally worse than the first game in terms of actual RPG mechanics as a sequel. I do like the third game the most. And I know you're flipped. You like the second game the most and more than the
second game is a classic. It is one of the greatest games that was ever created. Okay, ever. First game, I agree. RPG elements not as strong as the first game, and I understand why some people who really love the first game look at the second game and just like, yo, why did you just strip away all the stuff that I love?
Right, as a sequel, it is a valid complaint.
Yeah, and 3 has the best combat out of the trilogy. It has the best combat, but then 3 story-wise, I think is the weakest because it's really just tying up all the loose ends and everything from 1 and 2. See, 2 is like it's a big suicide mission. And you're gathering your team together for the suicide mission, but while also trying to deal with their different quirks and their personality conflicts and getting their loyalty, while also trying to avoid being killed by these collectors and stuff. And then the first game is literally what Starfield tried to do. Anyway, the first game is you're just chasing Saren for the majority of the time, but you're getting to very, very good as you're chasing Sarah. These very interesting side quests in these different worlds. But the third game is just, well, we got one big fight at Earth. Let's just gather an army to go do it. And literally everything you're doing is about gathering that army. Like everything is about gathering the army. And you got your readiness meter. And I kind of feel like the multiplayer really detracted from the main story, especially if you played it at launch, because it was like you couldn't get.
I'm sorry to cut you off, dude. Holy shit. Fantastic just closed.
Wait, what?
They just announced that they're closing. I'm seeing the statement right now. I'm going to send it to you.
No,
dude, what?
They're the biggest scam ever. Oh my! You just launched the game.
Y'all have to talk about this because they launched this at 12:35. Dude,
you just launched the
like
game
2 hours ago. The statement reads, today we announced the closure of Fantastic Studio. Unfortunately, the day before has failed financially and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. We invested all of our efforts, resources, and man hours into the development of the day before, in which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately, we do not have the funding to continue the work.
They
It's
are
important
just
to know-
abandoning this trash game. I cannot. I knew it. I was not going to touch that garbage. I knew from the moment they started talking about our employees are volunteers that this was a scam. Now it's a scam on two levels, because when people started talking that it was a scam, they said, how are we a scam? We have a publisher. If we were a scam, we wouldn't have a publisher that's actually supporting like I'm like,
God.
so you scammed the publisher first. That's the big scam. Is that so? When they first did that first reveal trailer, but they had the ray trace reflections everywhere, it was like The Division meets The Last of Us. Like that was a scripted nothing. It was running on nothing. It was all to get a publisher to sign on and to make the game. And they took that money the publisher gave them. And then they immediately started trying to make a game as cheap as possible. And I actually really don't even think they wanted to even release a game. But people was like, nah, fam, what's going on here? And then like people started to kind of call them out because they kept like the game was supposed to release like a year ago. And they kept delaying it
because of copyright issues. But yeah,
yeah,
we did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor. That's interesting. That's an interesting statement right there. We're grateful to everybody who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years. 2015 opening studio, 2017 release of The Wild 8, 2018 release of Dead Dozen and Radiant 1. 2021 release of Prop Night, and 2023 release of The Day Before. You're telling me that you wanted to create a game this massive in 2 years? Yeah,
I have never seen.
Sympathy. I don't have sympathy. I hope somebody brings a lawsuit into this.
Oh
company.
yeah, they're getting
ridiculous.
sued because the whole we don't have any money bull. You got money. You got money from the publisher that you said was supporting the game. And then you got people who still bought the game even though they thought it was a disaster. Nah. Look, after 4 days, you already about here? Wow. This is, I'm about to put it on screen.
They locked down their Discord as well too. Oh my God, they deleted everything.
This company, the people who run it, nothing that they have made will exist in a month. I'm talking about like nothing of theirs is going to even be around. Like the office, anything. This is wild, man.
9 hours ago on the Reddit sub, it says that refunds are being denied.
Of course they are.
Oh man, what a time to be alive.
They're not doing refund. They're not doing refunds. They took your money. They took the publisher's money, and they are done. They're shutting everything down and they're running. The founders. I gotta find the interview of the founders because they did an interview, and after the interview, everyone who conducted the interview was like, "Yo, I've never seen anything like this before. This is ridiculous." Like these guys has been scam artists from the very start.
Oh my God! Please don't tell me they took it off Steam. Let me check. They did not take it off Steam. It is
unfortunately,
still up on Steam, guys.
We invested all of our efforts, resources, and man hours in the development of The Day Before. Free man hours because you didn't pay the employees that made the game, and the final product of the game is completely separate from what they actually initially showed. It's completely separate. They even, that like when you shoot at people, you shoot at the zombies. The sound and the shot and it hitting, there's the animation of the zombie taking the hit and reacting to it is a second behind.
Did you know that the zombies can't climb? So if you get up onto, like, if you just get up onto like a step, they can't follow you.
One step, and just go up 3 stairs, and this, oh, they can't get me.
I knew it was a scam because the recommended specs were a 1080 Ti. That's how I knew it was a scam.
Oh, let me tell you, the first time I realized they were full of it, when they did their first delay, they said, we're delaying the day before because we're going to port the game from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5. It's going to be out.
That on DPS.
Yeah, right. It was like, it's going to be out in 6 months. I was like, you can't convert the game from Unreal Engine 4 to 5 that quickly. That's it.
Also Melee doesn't work.
Epic couldn't do that. Of course it doesn't.
So there's no Melee.
Freaking
combat.
Epic couldn't do that with Fortnite with over thousands of developers.
Oh my god.
And they made the engine. It was just like, this is crap.
Oh, man,
don't believe nothing they say, man. Oh my gosh, yo. This is wild. I am flabbergasted by this.
You know, anyways, that was you know what? I look forward to DPS this following.
Oh, we are going in on them.
Week. Yeah. That's only in a couple
Okami,
days.
shout out to Okami. He says, refund everyone who bought it too. You sold a long-term games as a service and you're shutting it down after less than a week. That is
4 hours, man. Or 4 days. 4 whole days.
J-Dub pauses his console warring to say, y'all didn't even play your own game to test QC quality control. You failed to even secure the name of the game rights until recently. You're scammers, period. Facts. The characters in the game verdict is funny. Why like the clothing of all the characters from The Walking Dead look exactly like the way the characters look in the game?
Oh my
Shout out to Cassie with the oh man, this is great.
Definitely a statement. So, you know what? Yeah. Yeah, I'm speechless about it.
I shouldn't be laughing because I know people who have bought the game. I know people and I know some of them did it for content creation purposes. They was just making content off of something they know was garbage. But I don't think anybody suspected that like this game, the studio would just shut down this quickly. Matter of fact, their Twitter account, mark my words right now, by January 1st, the first day of 2024, this Twitter account won't exist no more. This Twitter account is going to be gone by 2024. There were times when they got called out for stuff where they took down their Steam page. Multiple times they have taken down their Steam page, and the initial. I have a copy. Matter of fact, let me go find it. I have a recording of their first reveal trailer, and I'm gonna find it because you can't get this trailer on the internet no more because they removed all their trailers of the game that showed it looking way better than it actually is because they weren't trying to give people enough ammunition to actually compare and contrast the fact that their game looks nothing like the actual game that they delivered.
Worst reviewed games on Steam in history. That is an achievement for sure.
Oh yeah, I gotta find this, man. This is great. Oh boy, man. Yeah. Like you can't find this trailer anywhere now because they took it down. They took down when they had the copyright issue with their name. And they claimed they couldn't get their name. They took their Steam page down and took down all the trailers. But when they finally got their name, they didn't put any of that stuff back up. They put the Steam page back up, but they didn't put any of the trailers back up. People found that very curious. It's like, why would you not put all this stuff back up on your YouTube channel and stuff? Why did you still keep it all down? Well, here's why. Oh man. What are these other games that they even mentioned? Release of the Wild 8, Dead Dozen, Radiant 1, Prop Night. Like, you know what? I want to look up these games. But because I can't find the trailer. I know I got the trailer, but I can't find it. Let me go find this game. What's one of them real quick?
Holy.
I can't. Wait a minute, hold on. The Wild 8. Okay, I'm gonna look for the Wild 8 real quick.
Yeah.
Just real quick before we get out of here, because I want to see what this game actually is. The Wild.
It's a top-down isometric game. Drop early
Gameplay.
2017. It is $4 right now.
Hmm.
Co-op.
Thank you so much for joining me as Gamage.
Ooh,
See what
this is
the
a
reviews
review
say.
of it. What is it?
Mostly negative. 26 reviews. All reviews 6,000.
This is the Wild 8.
Interesting.
So this studio went from making games like this to what they tried to do with The Day Before.
In the span of 6 years. I don't know if you could gain the skills to do a game the size of The Day Before.
Well,
in 6 years.
I mean, we're definitely not, because like they didn't even have the same team. Like, I wonder who the people were who made this game, because they clearly weren't still there in the studio when they were making The Day Before, because they relied on volunteers, quote unquote volunteers, who were working basically full-time jobs to try to make the game, and basically paying them an experience. Although, like in retrospect, who in their right mind would have this on their resume?
Oh my god!
Who in their
they
right
shut the
mind?
website down too.
The website's already shut.
The website's down. Fantastic.com. It's just it's a completely white screen, and it's their what's it called? It's their apology note, and then it says published December 12th, which is tomorrow. So it's damn. They just don't care, man. They shut everything down. They packed it all up.
I'm telling you, all that stuff is going to be gone. All that stuff is going to be gone before the year is out. Every trace on the internet of that studio is going to be gone. But you know what's going to happen? The founders, it's two guys. I think two Russian guys or whatever. The founders are going to next year start a new studio.
Let me go onto the Wayback Machine and see if I can go onto their volunteering page, because I do want to read. I do want to read what they have set up for their volunteering
John
page.
Wolf. He said the game will be available a day before tomorrow. After that, that's a wrap.
Okay, they took a snapshot. Let's see. Volunteering at Fantastic. Work culture. Fantastic's work culture is based on the philosophy of volunteering. What? That's not real life. This isn't real. Wow. Yeah, you guys should have known, man.
Yeah, hey, if you spent money on that game, just call it. It's you contributed to the scam and their startup of their new studio and whatever yacht that they are, currently relaxing on right now, because they then took their publisher's money, they then took your money, and they delivered I won't even call it half done product, a barely done product, and
God.
They shut everything down.
Okay, so I'm on the Wayback Machine, right, Mo?
Mhm.
And so in their page, fantastic.com/volunteering, it's a definition of volunteering. So it's just a white screen. It says volunteering, and it says essentially the word volunteer comes from the Latin word voluntarius, which means willing or of one's choice. whatever you do in your life, you have two choices: do it willingly or do it unwillingly. If you help a stranger carry heavy boxes into their house willingly, you enjoy it. If you carry those heavy boxes unwillingly, every moment would be like torture. So voluntary means that you could bring certain pleasantness to every action you take. And then it says read more. And you click read more, and it brings you to a 3-minute article written by the two developers that says, what does it mean to be a volunteer at Fantastic? And then it links you to a YouTube video. You just can't make it up, man. You just can't make this up, dude. Let me click on this YouTube video. Let's see if this YouTube video is still up. That's what I need to know. I need to know. This is an interesting endeavor.
Oh man.
All of this screams scam.
I hate to say it, man.
You're a
But
victim.
you know what? You're a victim.
You're a victim.
You're a victim. If you bought this game,
You're a victim.
Oh. Oh man, I'm done. I'm ending the stream. This is
Okay. Well, that's thank you for that. I appreciate that. That was a good laugh.
Oh, man. All right, I'm out. Y'all enjoy the rest of your day if you didn't buy the day before, so that you don't have to worry about this. But appreciate everybody for coming through. Die, appreciate you for coming through as well. We'll get up out of here. Peace out, and don't get scammed.